Hello, this is Victor at RestoreYourMercedes.com. This video is for Kurt in Massachusetts. And this is 9899 door lock pump under the rear seat, found under the rear seat in S-Class vehicles, W140 chassis. Okay, so this is what happens. Original pump came in, and the first thing I saw, there was a little broken piece here on the case. As you can see, the case has a little bit of a breakage point here. That's not good. Then the next thing was the sticker saying that there's vacuum problem with the pump. So this is what I have found in it. The pump, this is the manifold valves, and this is the whole manifold and valves and solenoids. So the broken part, if you look at it, a broken part on the case sits really close to this screw that holds manifold to the case. Now also, because it is in closest proximity to the vacuum port, which is this one, I believe that there was a breakage in the manifold itself, and the breakage is somewhere inside where the threads are, because you see it's threaded in to the manifold, and manifold is sealed. As you can see, it has passages in there. So I believe that internally it was broken, and therefore the vacuum is leaking not through the valve itself, but it's leaking somewhere in between case on the manifold. So you can see in there, if the screw was pushed in deep and something cracked inside sealed manifold. So because of that, pump had to work really hard. And what I found with the motor is the actual shaft broke its bearing. It's like sort of a bearing over here at the end. As you can see, it's not even straight. It's completely out of round. So the motor, poor little thing, was running so hot and so hard that it broke its bearing, the output bearing here. As you can see, it's terrible. On top of that, this is the pump vane bottom portion. The actual pump bottom portion, as you can see, the opening is also out of round because the motor basically broke it all open. It sits here. I'm just gonna let's see, well, it sits in there. Like, just difficult to do, to make video with one hand. So this is the bottom portion, so it sits here, and as you can see, the motor broke all of this area because it was just banging all over the place. That's crazy. And on top of that, we have scoring on the actual pump surfaces where vanes travel. As you can see, lots of scoring. You want it to be as smooth as possible, obviously, because then you create good vacuum and good pressure, and you see scoring here. So that, nothing broke, vanes are in place, but again, as you can see, there's a bunch of scoring on surfaces. Now, it probably would have worked, but the pressure and vacuum would have been a little lower. So decision was made on my side here to build another manifold, which I had laying around, but I had no solenoid in it. So I took solenoid from here, put it in the other manifold. And I also decided to replace the whole case. I also had another case. As you can see, it's not broken here. And all the nipples on my case are very good. All the nipples are in place, very smooth. Because something happened with the original manifold where, as you can see on the pressure nipple, there was some scoring, some residue of some sort of glue. I don't know what was done to it, but it was not clean. It's supposed to be nice and smooth, as you see here. It's supposed to be very nice and smooth. Okay, these are very important nipples. And as this one is smooth, the other one is like sort of scratched up. So that's where you can also lose your pressure. That's not good. So another manifold top installed, and new case, well, it's used, but it's much better case than the one we had. It was no breakage over here. So I don't know what happened originally, so that has to be taken care of. Like, see the reason why it was broken in the first place, because you can break this pump as well. And that was done. I did have to readjust pressures inside the pump because different manifold now, and of course I had to replace the motor. I also had to replace basically the whole vanes and everything. These are all used but nice, no scoring on those. The motor is brand new. I have stock of these motors left, so the motor is done. Cleaned up internals, cleaned up the board, and manifold and valve block is all replaced. So that is where we are. Next step, what we're gonna do is we're going to test the unit. So I'm going to relieve pressures and vacuum. Okay, so that is relieved. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to energize the pump. I'm going to put on the ignition right now, and what we're gonna do is, once I put on the ignition, this little pressure reservoir is going to inflate. So I have ignition on. It did inflate. The second activation was building up vacuum, so vacuum is built up as well. So we have vacuum and pressure build up. So when I disconnect power, shut down ignition, in other words, I'm going to look at shut-off valves. They have to be in active position, they have to be moved. So the power is on, but ignition is off. So what we see there is the white pressure, the white one. As you can see, contacts are open, that's our vacuum. And the pressure contacts are also open. That's on the black valve right there. Those contacts are open. So in other words, internally, pump is not leaking now anymore. Because once those contacts close, pump starts pumping again to create pressure and vacuum, to fill pressure and vacuum storage tanks. And right now, if I'm going to, let's say, activate the power again, let's just see if I can do that with one hand. It's not easy. I had to put tripod on, but I just, there's too much work today, so I can't work with tripods today. Say we're gonna do, I'm gonna put the ignition on right now, and I'm gonna keep it on. So I'm gonna just make this adapters here. So let's do that. Okay, I'm gonna duplicate conditions when you have leaks. Now ignition is on, and if your pressure and vacuum storage tanks are filled, and there are no leaks in the circuit, then the pump will not even energize. It will remain off because ignition had been just put on. So let's see, we have a leak in the vacuum circuit. As you can see, we have a leak in vacuum circuit, pump activates. Once I close down the circuit, pump pumps the vacuum to whatever it has to go, and it shuts down and it remains off. Same happens for pressure. So if I'm gonna, let's say, deflate the pressure storage tank, one more time. I'm gonna deflate this. And once I close down the port and pressure tank is inflated, pump shuts down and remains off. So we're clear we're clear on this. Now the next thing would be is to check our... I actually don't need ignition on for this test. So let's do SFG. This is going to be our trunk handle. So what we're going to do is we're going to activate the trunk handle, and we're going to have handle going in and handle going out. So for that we need the pressure gauge and vacuum gauge. This is dual action. So when I activate it, we're going to see pressure and vacuum, because handle has to go in and has to go out. That was pressure to push the handle out. That was vacuum to pull handle back in into the trunk lid. It's very healthy actually, because if you see the readings are about over 0.5 bars, and that's pretty nice. We have about 10 psi and negative 18 about, which is about right. This is where it's supposed to be. So we have our handle working. The next step will be to do trunk remote release. Now the trunk remote release is going to happen there are two circuits here. First it has to unlock the trunk, which is this port. You're going to see the pressure here or vacuum on the gauge, and then it will actually push the release the mechanism, which is this port right here. So first I'm going to show you that it does unlock, and once it unlocks, you see it was unlocked. The trunk itself is unlocked. I'm going to switch ports to show you that it actually now releases the trunk. For that I have to plug in unlock circuit, and then I plug in my gauge to the actual activation circuit. So as you can see, it jumped to activate this port. That's to actually unlatch the trunk, so it pops open. So we're good here. The last circuitry is going to be lock and unlock of doors. So for this test we're gonna have to plug in all the ports here, because they're all connected when you do central locking and unlocking. So let's do, that was our vacuum, that is to lock doors, that was our pressure. As you can see, very nice and healthy, very quick. Pump activates well. Basically pressure is going to be, pressure and vacuum, they're all going to be equal on all of these ports. However, because it's a 9899, once you hit the door unlock and lock button on your key fob, you're going to see just one port activate. Because I don't have the door lock and unlock key fob, you know, the remote control fob, obviously I cannot do such a thing. So I can only do central locking and central unlocking. So as you can see, the ports are pretty much same. Pressure and vacuum is about to be the same on all of these ports. This is our front doors, this is our trunk, and this is our fuel cap. So that is, I believe, lock. Okay, now let's see. We do not get to lock and unlock on the fuel cap because this is central locking. It does not have, fuel cap is closed, so you gotta actually open the door so it will activate the TK circuit. Okay, so I think this is pretty good right here. So we're pretty clear here, because it's not locking, it's always unlocked. Once you hit the door lock button, that port will activate. So we're pretty good over here. I mean, I'm pretty confident with this pump, so everything seemed to work properly, and I don't have no problems with it. So this is where we stand. But again, if I'm gonna leave this port open, you see it's running. So when I lock the doors, all of these lock. So we're good here. I mean, this is good. I like this operation here. Everything seems to be working properly. Alright, so this is about all. I mean, the pump is ready to go. As you can see, pressure reservoir is up, and if I'm gonna put on the ignition, you're gonna see that the pump continues to be off because there are no leaks in the circuits for pressure and vacuum. So we're pretty good here. The rest works fine. Alright, so this is basically all. Pump is ready to go. I ran the motor for a long time just to make sure that it does not overheat and it's lined up properly, because you also have to align it very carefully. If you misalign it, then it's going to start expanding and it's going to get stuck. Not a good scenario. If you're going to align it too far apart, then it's not going to create enough pressure and vacuum. So it's like a little fine line there. Alright, so this is it. This is Victor at RestoreMercedes.com. This is a PSC pump that is found under the rear seat on S-Class vehicles. Thank you for watching.